I'm continuing my talk today on the book of Daniel. So it's been a bit of a while since I spoke last. It's been about 6 months. So I'm going to stretch your memories to see if you actually can remember some of it. You probably won't be able to do that. So this part of the book of Daniel, I've named it governments on the horizon. That is what Daniel's seeing, governments that are coming, but it's more commonly called times of the Gentiles. This is Gentile rule over the world and over Israel. It's about prophecy. We're now stepping into the realm of prophecy from chapter 7 to 12. What is prophecy? Prophecy is God telling us his plans, and those plans are written in God's holy word in the Bible. Scholars say there's about 27% of the Bible is prophecy. 3/4 have been fulfilled, and they've been fulfilled 100% accurately. We've now got 1/4 to go, which is approximately about 450 prophecies in the Old and New Testaments to come about. And we know those unfulfilled ones, when they are fulfilled, they will be 100% correct. So to give you an example, those dreams that Kingsley mentioned just a minute ago from the book of Daniel, this is Daniel and the Old Testament prophets. So I thought I'd just give you an overview of Clarence Larkin's The Mountain Peaks of Prophecy. So this is on the left would be, say, example would be Daniel or other prophets, Ezekiel, Isaiah. And it's called the Mountain Peaks of Prophecy. So each of those mountain peaks represents a prophecy. So they're seeing from the side. So it's like when you go hiking in the hills. You see one hill after another hill after another hill. You just see the peaks. So the Old Testament prophets, they saw the birth of Jesus, they saw the cross, they saw Pentecost, they see the Antichrist, and they also see the kingdom and the new heavens, new earth. But what they don't see is the valleys. The valleys are invisible. They just don't see that. So that valley is the church. They did not see the church. That was a mystery in the Old Testament, but revealed in the New Testament. And also the Millennium Valley was not seen by the Old Testament prophets. But we're now seeing from the side. So we got the hindsight of the New Testament. This is what the apostles wrote. This is what Paul wrote. This is what John wrote in the book of Revelation. So we're seeing the valley. We're seeing the Millennium Kingdom. We know about that. But with all prophecy, we know what's going to happen because it's written in God's word. We don't know when it's going to happen, and we don't know sometimes how it's going to happen. So we can't be dogmatic in our approach to prophecy because we just can't nail these things down. So Daniel, he writes 12 chapters, and actually I'll just go back step back. In 605 BC, God sends Nebuchadnezzar, his servant, which is written in Jeremiah, he sends Nebuchadnezzar to take captive the southern kingdom, which is Judah. Over 100 years before, he's already taken Israel into captivity because they've been disobedient to God. They worshipped false gods. They did not obey God's law. God sent the prophets, but they did not obey the prophets, and he warned them, if you don't do what I'm telling you to do, I'm going to take you into captivity. So in 605, he raised up Nebuchadnezzar, and he then went to Israel and took captive Israel. And in that captivity, he took Daniel and a group of other guys. And Daniel was about 15. Daniel in 2, if you remember back in 2, he interpreted a dream for Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream of a big statue. Daniel told him what that statue was. He didn't understand it. So Daniel came in and told him what it was. The king had a second dream where a tree was cut down. That was Nebuchadnezzar. He was humbled because he was proud and arrogant, so God cut him down. Now we come into the chapter 7, and you can see it's not in chronological order. Daniel's 67, so this chapter 7 fits between chapter 4 and 5. So we sometimes think it's chronological, but it's not. And that book is divided into 3 parts. Chapter 7 is divided into 3 parts. It's the earthly kingdoms. We're talking about earthly kingdoms now. We have heavenly scenes, and we see this beast or this person called the Antichrist. So Picture paints 1,000 words. I hope this does things well for us. So the one on the left is the image. That image is what Nebuchadnezzar dreamed about. So he dreamed of this golden image with a head of gold, arms and shoulders of silver, body, midriff and hips of bronze, then iron legs and iron feet mixed with clay. So these are Daniel's visions, is the one in the middle, which are the beasts. So we read before that the four winds of heaven stir up the great sea into chaotic state. That is the Lord working in throughout the world. He's doing things, stir things up, and the world is in turmoil. So the chaotic sea represents the nations in turmoil. How do we know that that's what it means? Scripture interprets Scripture. So we just need to go, a companion book to Daniel is the book of Revelation. So we go to Revelation 17:15. It says, "And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are the peoples and multitudes and nations and languages." So we know this is the nations that he's talking about. And I'd just like to reinforce, some people today are teaching that those four beasts represent England, the United States, Russia, and other countries. Wrong. It's just incorrect. History has shown us that these are those nations. So the first beast is Babylon, which reflected gold. So we see a lion. So a lion is the king of the beasts. It has wings of eagles, and the eagle is the king of the air. But what we see with Nebuchadnezzar, he was a very powerful, very prominent military man. And what he did is he went around and he conquered a lot of nations. And you see the wings, that means they were mobile, they were out and about, they were a conquering nation. Then we hear through the word that those wings are plucked off, they're removed. That means they are no longer able to move around, they're stationary. So his area has been established. The area he's conquered, he cannot conquer anymore. The lion is put up in its hind legs and given a mind of man. That was Nebuchadnezzar's humbling. So he was humbled. And when he came back to the throne, he was more civilized. So it reflected Babylon treated its citizens better than before. So all kings are generally tyrants. But Nebuchadnezzar learnt to obey God's rule. So the second one here, we have the bear. So whenever Daniel's describing, he uses the word like. It was like a lion with wings, like a bear. He uses the word to describe something that's hard to put in other terms. So he uses bear. So bear is big, a bear is strong. In this situation, as we read, one side of this bear is bigger than the other. That represents that Persia is the stronger of the alliance. The two arms, one arm's Medo, the other one's Persia. So one of those arms, one of those sides, the alliance, one is stronger. It has 3 ribs in its mouth. Those 3 ribs reflect the 3 nations that Medo-Persia conquered. That was obviously Babylon. The next one was Egypt. And the third one was Lydia, which is west of Turkey. Then we come to the bronze part, or the leopard, which is Greece. That's the third kingdom to come. So these kingdoms come one after another. So the leopard has 4 wings. Babylon had 2, they had 4. So it means it's very, very fast. And he was led by Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great's army started in Greece and it went 17,000 kilometres to the west to India. And it did it the fastest time that any other army has done in the world. So it's noted for its speed and conquering. And also, a leopard is also known for its speed, but it's also ferocious as well. It has 4 heads. So what does the 4 heads mean? Well, Alexander died at 32 years old. He was young. They say he may have died from alcoholism. But his generals, they reflect his generals that took over his empire. His empire was divided into 4 parts, and those 4 heads are his generals. I did put in there on chapter 8, so if you go into chapter 8 sometime in your spare time, they are rendered slightly different. So when you go to chapter 8, the bear is the ram, and then the leopard is the goat. Then we come to this thing below. Daniel doesn't have any words. He doesn't liken it to any other creature. He calls it a beast. So it's called the beast. So it's got teeth of iron, and it's got feet of bronze. That reflects the Roman Empire. Rome came into being about 35 BC, and it lasted about 450 AD. So it had a lifespan of quite long. But its army brought into play some military technologies that was never seen before. They were formidable. The word says it crushed its enemies. Nobody ever stood up and got away with getting in front of Rome. Rome flattened them. So we see there, though, that it says Rome, but not completely fulfilled, which is correct. So it was terrifying. It was a ferocious beast. And so that was a beast stage. Then it also next goes into, which is yet to occur, which is the feet stage, which is the feet made of iron and clay. That is yet to come into place. So the 10 rulers yet to come. There's not been a 10-ruler confederacy established in the world to date. No history books have ever shown this 10-kingdom rule. We've never recorded, again, 3 are removed, and we've never recorded the Antichrist. So all the other Antichrists are with a lower A. This Antichrist is spelt with a capital A. And it has 10 horns. Horns mean strength, but also means kings and kingdoms. But it also, if you look at that, you probably can't see, it's not rendered very well, but on the front of it, it's got a horn. The horn starts small and it becomes large. It has human eyes. So those eyes reflect human intelligence, personality and traits. So this little horn that comes, a big horn, is a human. But it has a big mouth, so it blasphemes God. So when it comes to this 10 Confederation World Leadership Group, they reflect again the toes. The toes reflect also the horns or the kings. It's mixed with iron and clay. So those people with an engineering background or a trade background know that when you mix iron and clay, they become weak. So they join together for military purposes. But because they're from different cultures and different backgrounds and different values and different allegiances, they never quite be that strong. They have weaknesses in them. And that is applicable later. But what did John see? As I said before, when you read the book of Daniel, you also read the book of Revelation. And this is what John saw. And that's revealed in chapter 13, verses 1 to 2. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea, which is the Gentile nations, with 10 horns and 7 heads, with the 10 diamonds on its horns and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and his great authority. So as we see when Daniel is explaining what he's seeing, these kingdoms comes, he has the lion, the bear and the leopard. John's looking back in history and he's seeing the beast come out, but he sees the leopard, the bear and the lion. So why is it portrayed differently in 2 different ways? Why have we got the one on the left, which is this big statue, and why have we got the animals, the beasts that have been described? See, the one on the left is how man sees his kingdoms, how man sees authority. He sees power, authority. He sees it man's way. But in the middle of the beast, that's what God sees. God sees them as beasts. He knows their inner nature, which is vicious, and they take down, they're cruel to their people. That's how it's rendered. One man's view of it is on the left, and King Nebuchadnezzar was quite happy that he was the gold and he was the best of it, but God sees world kingdoms differently. So that's a description of the times of the Gentiles. These are the 4 kingdoms that will come from when Israel went into captivity, right to the end of the tribulation. And I'll explain a bit more about that later. Whoops, can you forward that one, Wayne, at all? Oh, there it is, sorry. I'm probably pressing it too often. Now we come to the Ancient of Days. So who's the Ancient of Days? That's God the Father. Why is he described as Ancient of Days? Because God lives outside of time. In the creation, God created time. Before that, there was no time. We live in time for us as humans. But he's the Ancient of Days. He's been around, you can't say forever, because that doesn't exist. And what we see here is the judgment on the thrones. So it says the court has been established, the thrones have been established, but they say more than one throne. What does that indicate? We go to Revelation and the 24 elders are given thrones. We are in judgment with God the Father in the heavenly scene. So the heavenly scene that we're seeing here in verses 9 to 14 is what John sees in Revelation chapters 4 and chapter 5. His judgment's accurate. So God is a just God, he's a righteous God, and he knows what is right and wrong. He sees human time from the beginning, and his judgments are perfect. This is the judge-only trial. There's no defence lawyers. There's no defence. He just comes before and he judges. So what we see here is we see white in the Bible. So a lot of symbology used in prophecy. So white beard and white clothing, that means God's holiness. That's what it describes. Fire describes the glory of God. It always signifies God's special presence, sometimes administering judgment. So we also see from here in Revelation 20, God keeps a record of human deeds. God recalls that. So whatever humans have done from the beginning of time, human time to the end, it's recorded. We as believers, we are not in that book. We are in Lamb's book of life. We are recorded in God's before time. Us believers are. The Son of Man comes forward and receives the rule of the earth. That's what satisfies what Phil said. It satisfies the Abrahamic covenant, satisfies a number of scriptures, including Psalm 2 is satisfied. This judgment occurs at Jesus' second coming, not before that. So that's in Revelation 19, at the end of the tribulation period. And it's not the great white throne judgment. The great white throne judgment in Revelation 20 is for all unbelievers. We are not subject to the great white throne judgment. We sit in judgment on the bema seat, not for anything we've done, but to be judged on our deeds. Now, sometimes you come across nuggets, you come across some real gems when you study the Word. And I've discovered something that I was having a bit of a struggle with when I was researching Daniel 7, verses 11 to 12. And 11 to 12 says this, and I said, I looked then because of the sound of the great words that the horn was speaking. That was the Antichrist. And as I looked, the beast was killed, and its body destroyed and given over to be burned with fire. That's the lake of fire. As the rest of the beasts, their dominion was taken away, but their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So I really struggled with what does that mean? But I found a nugget. So verses 12 served as a contrast with verse 11. So when each of the first three Gentile world kingdoms, the first three beasts, fell, they were not totally destroyed. They were absorbed into the next world kingdom, which conquered them and continued to exist as part of the new expression of the Gentile world dominion. In that sense, Babylon, Medo-Persia and Greece would continue to live for the entire period of time that God appointed for Gentile world domain at the end of the tribulation. By contrast, the fourth kingdom, which is Rome, would be totally destroyed in its fall. It would not be made part of the kingdom that would succeed it. Since Babylon, Medo-Persia and Greece continue to exist as part of the Roman Empire, the judgment of Rome will be their judgment as well. Therefore, God's total destruction of of Antichrist Roman Empire would also be God's total destruction of Gentile world domain. Never again would it dominate this world. This is a very important principle when reading the book of Revelation. So in Revelation, John uses the term Babylon. So does Peter. And they uses Babylon to describe the Antichrist world system. Using Babylon as a code name for Rome allowed John to communicate prophecy of the Roman Empire without directly provoking Roman authorities. This was particularly crucial for early Christians facing persecution under Roman rule. He never stood up against the Caesar. John's writings accords with Daniel's, and therefore Jesus will judge Gentile governments. So some people believe that the fourth beast and its iteration of the 10 confederacies or the Antichrist will be resurrected Rome. We currently live in that system now. We live in the time of the Gentiles. We see within our own Australia and the Western world the political system. We have a Senate. We see our financial system. We see our architecture Roman. There's a lot of parts of Rome and Babylon that are still current today. They've never gone away. Roman Empire finished, but it went to other parts in the West. France, Spain, Britain, now Empire America. It's still going. So I'm of the opinion that it won't be a resurrected empire. They'll use what we currently got. The Antichrist will use the system we have now to rule and reign. There's a very big conundrum, which I spoke last time, for the amillenniums. Amillenniums are people that believe there's no millennium. In Revelation 20 it says 6 times there'll be a 1,000-year reign of Jesus on earth. But they believe that's not going to happen. They believe that Jesus ascended to heaven and we at the church is God's kingdom on earth. That's not true. And they also believe the little horn appeared sometime in past history after Jesus' first coming. They believe probably General Titus, when he conquered Rome, was an Antichrist. That's all wrong. It's wrong because of the following. Jesus' birth, he came via virgin birth. In Matthew 24, Jesus himself, when he's given the Olivet Discourse, he says, Daniel 7, which is this, what I'm delivering today, will be fulfilled at his second coming. He'll be visible to the sky to everybody. At his trial, the sham trial by the Sanhedrin, Jesus said, you will not see me ever again. When you see me next time, I'll be coming in the cloud from the clouds of heaven. The Roman Empire and the kingdom of God do not ever coexist at Jesus' first advent, his first arrival. Again, there's never been a ruler, a world global figure that has ever attained worldwide status. There's never been a ruler that's removed 3 rulers while 10 are serving. And none have been destroyed at Christ's return. So when Jesus comes, it will be visible. We'll see it throughout the world. He'll come in glory and his power. And those people that think that maybe the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, is the Antichrist, wrong, because the little horn is a king. The Pope was never a king. But then we further go down. So Jesus comes, he's presented to the Father, he's given the kingdom. He's the 5th kingdom. So Jesus receives his kingdom. So then we go into Daniel. I know it's probably a bit busy. I'm not going to spend too much time here. Daniel was very intrigued by this Antichrist, this boastful man. Daniel 7 says, little horn. Revelation 13, some of it 19, calls him the beast. He will rise out of the nations. He'll look like a man with a big mouth. He'll have 10 horns. He'll blaspheme. He'll speak horrible things and blaspheme the name of the Lord and also his followers. He'll war against the saints. So what does that mean, he wars against the saints? So the tribulation period is a 7-year period. So when Israel was judged, they've served out their sentence except 7 years. And 7 years reflects at the end of time. A 7-year period they still owe God. That's when the Antichrist will come on the scene. And so these saints, for us, at Kelmscott here, we believe in a pre-trib rapture. We'll be raptured. We won't be here. The church is taken up and out of the way. These saints are the ones that come to faith during the tribulation period. And the Antichrist will start executing them. He'll go after them. He's given 3.5 years, so he's Mr. Nice Guy for 3.5. He's Mr. Fix-It, but for the second 3.5, he becomes this. He's a Hitler, Mussolini, Pol Pot. He's the worst of the worst. He make Hitler look like a Boy Scout. And he gives divine power, so he's indwelt by Satan. Satan indwells him, son of perdition. He'll seek to change the laws. God establishes the laws, but he'll try to establish his own laws. What that means, we do not know. He'll be defeated and be cast in the lake of fire. And that time will be the end of the Gentile time. So we know that Daniel was deeply troubled by this vision, but that's just the start. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, he has more visions, and he's physically sick for 3 weeks. So we need to talk about stage setting. I won't spend too much time here, but things have to be set up. So the Antichrist has got a period of 7 years to do what he needs to do. What he needs to do, he needs to destroy Israel. He doesn't want Jesus to come back. If there's no Israel, no Jews, no Jesus comes back. And so some of those global controls, I'm not saying these are all of them, but a great vehicle for global control would be the United Nations. That was created in 1946, the world was seeking peace. United Nations, they've grown in their scope. They have a lot of laws and they're imposing their will upon nation. World Health Organisation is another one, trying to do the same thing with arms within the UN. It will be a very easy vehicle for the Antichrist to use that. What's happening? You're probably hearing some other things in the space of central bank digital currencies. Cash is going. We know cash will be gone. Cash gives you anonymity and a lot of other benefits. We use digital currency now through debit cards and credit cards and so forth. But all banks, including the Australian government, are talking about a central bank digital currency. That is programmable. It's crypto-based. So what they can do there is if they don't like what you spend your money on, they can turn it off. So we just need to look at China. China is where we're all going. They've got a digital identification, which our government says the same thing, government ID. We want us to be digitally a digital ID. China has also a social credit score system. So when you participate in society, they want you to be good people. They want you to do what they want you to do. If you don't do what they do, you lose points and you get red carded and you can't participate. If you're a good citizen, you can participate. So it's social engineering. So social credit score system is good. It's connected to the digital currency. You can't participate. That's the beast system. Mark of the beast, you will not be able to buy and sell without the mark of the beast. So as time's going forward, we're seeing more of these revelations of what potentially could be occurring. And the Internet of Things. Now, most of these things, there's nothing really wrong with this technology. It's how it's used. There's nothing really wrong with the Internet. It has some great uses. But the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, that's coming. Where's that going to go? It could be a great tool. Deep fake, we're seeing things deep fake in videos. You're really hard pressed to find out what is real and not real nowadays. So the Internet of Things, there's closed circuit TV, so video monitoring, cameras everywhere, so they'll monitor you. So George Orwell's 1984, they'll know when you're bowing down and getting up again. These are all things coming together. This is stage setting. They have to break things and to build back better. You probably heard that as well. So what's going to happen is Mr. Fix-It's going to come on. That's the beast. Hitler did the same thing. Germany was in a real mess. Economy was gone. A lot of things, social fabric of society is wrecked. He rebuilt the economy by ignoring the debt, rebuilt the military, and then he blamed the Jews. So their potential processes can come together. And just an example, the Club of Rome. The Club of Rome was formed in 1968 by global bankers and world politicians and global elites. 1968, they brought this out in 1974. It shows the world broken into 10 parts. Does that not show the 10 confederacies that says in Daniel here? Yes. But Jesus also said, in the last days, there will be deception. He did that at the Olivet Discourse. And he said to be discerning. We need to be discerning. There's more and more deception taking place. As Christians, We need to be discerning. Do not be an ostrich. Look at what's taking place in the world. The apostasy. Satan has entered the pulpits. Satan has entered the seminaries. Satan is a card-carrying member of the church nowadays. Pulpits are teaching same-sex marriage is fine. LGBTQ is fine. Gender reassignment's fine. Abortion's fine. I go on and on and on how far the church has fallen. You can't tell the difference between the church and the world now. Not all. So I'd classify Kelmscott as a remnant church, and it's growing smaller. Many years ago, when they talked about the rapture, they talked about a lot of the church gone. I reckon only be a small part of the church will go. People are falling away. Pastors are falling away. In America, pastors are falling over with sexual misconduct left, right and centre. So the apostasy's alive and well. And that's described in 1 Timothy 4:1. They're given over the doctrine of demons. They believe a lie. And there's lawlessness. We're seeing a breakdown in law right now, law and order. People don't respect the police, parents. Politicians are prone to telling a few fibs. You can't trust your politicians. Parents and children are having issues. As described beautifully in 2 Timothy 3:1-4. Have a look at that, and that shows you what it's going to be like. And what do we think the last days will look like? This is just the beginning. It's going to get a lot worse. As J.D. Farag says, I'd rather scare you to heaven than flatter you to hell. So we're in the church age. I'll finish up on this. We're still in the church age. The church age doesn't finish until Jesus comes back and raptures the church. So what's on the calendar? We're seeing Israel. So Israel is the bull point, is the centre point for all things happening, the Middle East. You want to know what's going on? Keep your eyes on Israel. Because as Phil said today, the covenant's yet to be fulfilled. Satan wants to kill the Jews, and he's going to kill 2/3 of them. Holocaust 2.0. But Israel was always seeking that peace, never finding it. They'll do a peace deal with the Antichrist. They'll think that he's a good man. They'll make this peace deal, but he'll break it at the halfway point, and he'll turn on them. So they're always seeking peace. There's always war going on. At the moment, we're seeing war in the Middle East with Israel, with its neighbours. Is it Psalm 83 being fulfilled? I don't know. Is there going to be the Ezekiel 38-39 war, the Gog-Magog war? Don't know. That means Russia and Iran and a confederation of 7 states come and try wipe out Israel. Jesus goes, and they're blown away. When is that going to happen? Some believe that's Armageddon. Some say it's the middle of the tribulation. Some say it's the beginning of the tribulation. Some say it's going to happen before it. Myself personally, I think it's going to happen just in the beginning of the tribulation. But I could stand corrected. Church saints, we have the promise of Jesus. Jesus in John 14:1 says, I go to my Father's house to prepare a room for you. If it was not so, I would tell you. In my Father's house are many, many rooms. I'll go prepare a place for you, and I'll come back and collect you, and you will be with me forever. That is the Jewish wedding system. We are the bride of Christ. So we're not subject to God's wrath. We're subject to man's wrath, but Jesus is not going to let his bride be beaten up, is he? He doesn't want to come down the altar with a wife with a black eye, missing teeth, torn gown. No, he wants us to be in a good place. So he's coming to get us. All he's waiting for now is God the Father to say, Jesus, go get your bride. And that's what we are. As Christians, that's our great hope. And that could happen at any time. So left behind, those people are left behind. Hell is a lot worse than what we ever think. Pulpits do not teach hell anymore. They don't want to scare people. It's bad. Just read through the scriptures. Gnawing and gnashing of teeth, where the worm will turn. When the Lord raises the unbelievers at the great white throne, they get a new body and they're thrown in the lake of fire. It will be a body that they can withstand this hot lake of fire. That's going to be a place you would not want, and you would not want your friends, loved ones, or even your worst enemies to go to. So there's going to be those that are left behind. They will hear the message during the tribulation. Again, a lot of them, as you read in Revelation, they reject that. So what we're told to do is to share the good news. Share the good news of Jesus and what he achieved on the cross and how he'll save us. We want to save our our loved ones. We want to share the message. So as Christians, what should we be doing while we're waiting for Jesus to come back? We need to be reading our word. I said last time when I was up here, most times the church surveys have shown that most Christians have never read their Bible fully. They've just never done it. And they don't do regular prayer. So I have a saying, high reading of your Bible is high confidence. You have high confidence and you're not easily deceived. Low reading is low confidence. You're rocked around. So I'd encourage regular reading of your Bible. And one of the greatest tools that we have in the toolbox is prayer. Jesus said pray. So take everything to the Lord in prayer. He wants to hear from us. But as Greg has said, don't expect a two-way conversation. We talk to God. Take all our cares to God. He wants to hear from us. And we are here at church for a reason, because we support each other. Hebrews 10 says, do not give up meeting together. Particularly in these last days before we go up, we need to be supporting and helping each other, sharing ideas, sharing life experiences, encouraging our brothers and sisters in the faith. That probably brings to conclusion my message. I might have blown some of your heads up. I apologise for that. But I'll just finish with a word of prayer.